guys and some gals, I hope. We're gonna do another Planetside 2 video today. As I promised, the last Planetside 2 video that we did about Liberator certifications, which was the boring yet informative video. Sadly, those ones have to be around as well. Today we're actually gonna go over the basics of this beautiful piece of equipment you see in front of you called a Liberator. Following that, we've compiled something like 17 minutes, 18 minutes, which is quite a lot, of us killing stuff with the Liberator, and I really hope that this fucker does not try to kill my Liberator now. I swear to God I will hunt you down. That's, yeah, I think he heard that. Should I just, what do you guys think? Oh, this is the way we're gonna play it. Okay. Well, that's a nice and interesting introduction to our video, but this guy has now just entered my shit list, so, look at him. You know, you can keep pushing me, you know, just push me over to the warp gate so I can get you another, get another Liberator. Right, so as I was explaining, you know, we'll just do a little hike. Gotta, you know, try and keep our physical condition in mint condition. That's a bit of a derpy sentence. So as I was saying, that beautiful piece of equipment that was just entirely raped by that prowler. We're gonna go over a little bit of an introduction, i.e., you know, discuss what to do, what not to do, what to keep into mind when you're actually playing, flying a Liberator. Following that, we have about 17 minutes of frag highlights and whatnot with small tips as these, the Goonie tips. And the Goonie tips are named after the Goon Brigade, which is the outfit that I'm in. You can, you know, hit them up with a shout out. You can check them out if you want to join. Feel free, recruitment's open, goonbrigade.com. And those Goonie tips are going to show you stuff that we were talking about during the certain frags, things you need to consider. Just short tips, you don't want to keep it bite size. So while we're at it, let's spawn another Liberator. It's the Africa Liberator, as you can see. It's incredibly important to note. So basics. First thing to note is there's two things that are incredibly problematic to explain as basics come. One, communication between me and my gunner. I cannot show you how efficiently me and my gunner communicate unless, well, we do an entire video on me and my gunner communicating, which we'll probably do, but just not inside this video. Other than that, the it's you know, if you don't like flying, then don't fly. If you like to fly but you don't know how to fly, then the only thing I can say is just, you know, stick a couple hours in flying mosquitoes, reavers, or scythes, and maybe Liberators. I personally went for the mosquito as I am TR first, mainly because that's more chaotic to fly than Liberator. As a Liberator, the only thing is just that it's extremely tardy. Like right now, I'm using about 10 to 15 centimeters on my mouse pad. I have increased my sensitivity a little bit, but it's just slow to respond. Do note that I do not have the high G airframe or the precision bomber airframe, so my turns, rolls, yaws, and that sort of stuff will be slower than other people's. Anyhow, peripheral vision is extremely important. In a standstill, as such, you can now see that my peripheral vision is extremely low. I cannot really see any targets besides under my wings and in front of me. Whereas if you start flying, your peripheral vision increases, on top of the fact that, you know, by doing small turns as such, you can actually increase that a little bit, scope out the scenery for your gunner, and from there on out just, you know, communicate efficiently. For instance, if I now actually turn back to a balanced position, if I now see an enemy tank driving around in front of me, I can tell my gunner there is an enemy tank located to the southeast. From there on, my gunner can actually turn that way, confirm that he's seen the target, and, you know, then start the takeout, so to speak. This is all about communication, but the point is, use this peripheral vision, because as soon as you brake, you don't see as much as you do when you're at maximum speed. Also, standing still is incredibly dangerous because now you're just like a giant floating air target, and those dumbfire missiles do a lot of damage. So always try to keep on the move a little bit, whether it's just, you know, something like 10, 20 kph, just, you know, keep moving a little bit. Sometimes try and, you know, shake it up a little bit, but, you know, that's important. So the next thing is maneuvering. Having, you know, if you move on an axis as such, or rotating around this, I believe it's the y-axis, not the x-axis. It's a bit of both, I guess. But if you do this is incredibly problematic for your gunner, because they need to keep compensating. In like the middle of this dial, you see the amount of degrees, i.e. we're on like minus 20, 40, 20, back to positive 20, 30, 40 clockwise. These mean that your gunner actually needs to offset that degree deficit that you've built. So if you ask me, always try to turn with your A and your D keys, i.e. yawing to the right or yawing to the left. You can't do this efficiently when you're at top speed, because here, if just throw the afterburners in for a sec, it's like you just cover way too much distance when you do this. So only try to do that when, for instance, you're on 20-30% full speed, i.e. when your wings are almost, not necessarily almost, but they can be a bit diagonally slanted as such. Just, you know, this way, your gunner, for instance, when he's pointing down, he will not have to correct much, because the bottom gunner is actually able to nearly completely turn at the belly of this Liberator aircraft. So keep that in mind. The other thing to remember is that being in the cockpit doesn't really happen that often unless you're trying to actually tank buster someone down. The only big reason you actually ever want to be in the cockpit other than the tank busters, if you've got the afterburner, as I do, to see how far it's reloaded. You know, checking your altitude is fairly pointless, because the altitude is absolute in this game and not relative, i.e. see that it marks 85 meters at this moment. I will fly over this crevice, and now obviously my direct altitude is a lot more, and now I'm still around the 60 meter mark, which, well, let me double check. No, here, see, it does not change, it's absolute. I understand that this is the way altimeters, yeah, I believe that's the right word, work. But it doesn't, you know, it doesn't make it an incredibly important instrument, other than when you're on flight ceiling and you know that you cannot go above a kilometer. But other than that, just try and stick in third person. Don't you know, pop over into first person that much. Continent-wise, it's not important. It's extremely important to know that out of all the continents, I rank Esamir the shittiest continent to fly in, because it's very hard to see stuff. It's all very white, which means that your depth vision goes to shit. And compared or take into account here that the checking your altitude is of no worth, because you can still bang into mountains that you don't see on your altitude meter when they're telling you you're on like 400 or 500 meters. So Esamir is the one I rank most problematic. Then Indar is probably the one that's in between, i.e. it's got a lot of flat areas in it, which make it good to gun, easy to maneuver, but it also makes you easy to spot and to chase you, which the same is actually Esamir. It's easy for enemy fighters to keep chasing you, because there's not a whole lot of stuff that you can shake them off in between. Amerish is maybe the more controversial continent, yet I find it the most interesting continent to actually fly on, because it's got a lot of these mountain peaks in between that allow for a lot of dodging, nice, easy, sneaky popping up behind and shooting stuff on the other side. I do know that some gunners have said that they find it the more problematic continent, because of all those mountains and whatnot, the amount of vehicles driving around are going to be, you know, in plenty of cover. You as a pilot need to be navigating a lot, and so on and so forth. But as I said, I find it the more interesting continent to fly in, because it makes it easier for me to stay alive, which is you know, the most important thing as a Liberator pilot. Keep that shit alive. That's the only thing I can say. So, but now, you know, we've talked enough. Tried to keep it as short as possible. I try and keep these videos a little bit, you know, comic at times. So we have a little bit of an intermission. I found someone, you know, playing a cool song over proximity chat, because that's what cool people seem to do all the time. And then I noticed this little bug, which I thought was funny. So enjoy.
compromised. Stabilized.